This is The Roadmap with Lee Highsmith.
Hello everyone and welcome to The Roadmap, exclusively here on ASBN.com. I'm Lee Highsmith, and every week we bring you some of the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business owners who are climbing the ladder, scaling their businesses, and thinking about how one day to exit stage left. Welcome to the show again, and thank you so much for my guest, David Buchter, coming on the show. David, thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks for the invitation. Honored to be here.
Absolutely. I've known you for what feels like dog years, 20 years, but it's been 5, and right. I finally got your last name right, Buchter.
That's correct.
Yes, it's spelled uniquely, but something about you is always unique, Dave. And the story you're going to bring our viewers today, which is interesting, is you've had the fortune of going through an exit. Yes. And I want to talk about that roadmap that we're running here on the show, and about growing, scaling, and exiting a business. Not every time you try to exit does it work. And I'd love to talk to our audience about some of the failures that happened, some of the buyers that were kicking tires. And then I want you to speak a little bit about the process, because you didn't sell 100% of the business. It was a partial sale that went on over time. Could you speak to this?
Sure. Great questions. So originally, we were not expecting anyone to knock on our door. We didn't think that we would be on anyone's radar.
And what kind of business was it? Was it a managed service provider?
Yes, we were a managed service provider founded in late 2001. And about 5 or 6 years in, we got a ring from a national provider who thought they were interested. And we were kind of floored. But yet, it was a very nice process to work through.
So, when you get that call, you spoke a little bit earlier about representation.
Right.
And when these people call you out of the blue to buy your business, it's exciting, right. Number one. It's a longer process than they may tell you it's going to be.
Sure.
But also representation. Some of the things you were shocked about because they were looking out for their best interests.
That's right. And at the time, we were still trying to build a better mousetrap. We had blinders on to the potential exit or the potential M&A opportunity. We had no idea. And having never done that before, we were in a position to just see where it went and what people were looking for. Didn't understand that the people who knocked on our door had a different interest than we would have had to sell. And then I started to understand the differences between buyer side representation and seller side representation. And then it made some sense. And that was probably light bulb one.
Light bulb one. That was your first experience, but you had a second experience with people kicking tires. And what did you take from that first experience that helped you through the second one?
One, I knew a lot more after going through the diligence with that first company, ultimately to find out that we weren't a fit. I learned a lot more about the process, and I also learned a lot more about myself and my partners. And we found that there were dichotomies all over the place. And we had to solve for some of them.
So do you mean internally as well?
Yes. Yeah, we had to solve for some things internally that we weren't prepared to solve for.
So give some examples for our viewers, because again, as people are out there thinking, I might want to sell a business, this is why they would watch the program, so they could get a sense about what are the hurdles that you had to overcome, and they learn from this.
Sure. We had started the business kind of as friends and had known each other from previous employment situations and had a good relationship, and we liked each other personally. We liked what we all brought to the table. There was overlap, but not 100% overlap, and we became good friends in business. Didn't really understand what was driving each one of us to where we ultimately wanted to go as individuals, and that first process helped us see that the 4 of us had differences that we didn't think we did. Some of them were financial, some of them were next step, some of them were family oriented. We learned a lot about each other. And a big piece for that was us understanding that there was a difference between running a business for lifestyle and running a business for sale. And that was a light bulb too, was understanding that we had a lot of things to fix about the business before we were truly valuable, and we could see the most value out of a transaction.
So would you recommend for viewers out there, which is important, and that's why people are watching you, is before you go to market, would you want to get you and your partners co-aligned on all those topics in advance?
Yeah, and even if you're not skilled to do that individually, there are people out there who we reached out to help us understand the things we didn't understand about our business. We had our own set of pride, but we weren't prideful enough to understand that there are people who have done this and we could benefit from that. So bringing in external consultants to help us through that process helped us understand who we are, who we were, and what we needed to fix personally and professionally to get to this next place.
So, you know, a lot of people that sell their business, they would think, okay, it's a transaction. I'm selling 100% of my business and then I walk away the next day.
Right.
So I put it on the market, someone hands me a check through moments of letters of intent and due diligence, and then I'm walking away the next day, which I think you realize isn't the case. And more importantly, when you sell a business, you don't have to sell 100% on day one. I think you experienced that. Can you share?
Yeah, we absolutely experienced that, and we didn't know anything else other than if we were going to sell a business, somebody was going to pay us X dollars, and we would no longer be owners. Wasn't the case. We didn't understand that there were options, and we didn't understand the buyer side of it. Their incentive was to buy something that they could build and grow, and the owners, my partners and I, we were integral to the business. And that's a really big piece. If we weren't as integral to the day-to-day part of the business, we probably could have sold maybe in one transaction. But our guarantee to the buyer was that we were going to be around for up to 2 years, and we were going to help the buyer transition, and we were going to help the clients transition. And our final earnout was based on how the business operated and grew, or potentially declined.
Sure.
And that was a big piece for the buyer that we didn't understand.
And, you know, that makes sense. If you're integral to the business, they're buying the business itself, the
Correct.
assets of the business, of
Right.
course, and also the ownership. So what I always recommend for people out there looking for selling their business is you want to make sure that you always have a quality G2 in your operation. And what I mean by G2 is generation 2. Who's going to take over that business for you when you sell? Or if you go to market, what's going to make it appealing for someone to come in, allow you to leave while you have a quality generation 2 ready to take over that business? That's what we always recommend.
Exactly. And if that's not internal, then of the buyer and the buyer's team, who is the people or the person on their team that can fill that role?
Of course.
But that has to be solved for.
So you make the exit.
Yes.
It's a fundamental paradigm shift, life-changing moment for you when you finally
Correct.
exit out of the business after a few years. And then do you wake up and say, do I go to work tomorrow? What do I do? This is a big gap for a lot of entrepreneurs that sell their business. What did you do, Dave?
Right. And that's exactly what happened. And my experience was different than my partner's experiences because we each had different goals. We were at different places in our lives or different places professionally, and we had different goals for next steps. For me, I thought I was closing in towards the end of my career, and I wanted something that was maybe a little bit less hectic, a little bit less stressful, and I was looking to take my years of expertise in the industry and bring it to bear for a company where I could work for them.
And you did that for what, a year or two?
Almost, yeah, I think it was almost 2 years, but a year and a half before, well, a little over a year before I really understood that it wasn't who I was and what I wanted to do.
Because once you're an entrepreneur, once you're a business owner and you're betting on yourself, it's kind of hard to bet on somebody else. Is that accurate?
It was accurate for me. If it's accurate for everybody, I don't know. But for me, it was definitely accurate. And I didn't understand what I was feeling until I could think it and talk it through.
So what did you do then? What happens after you work a year and a half or 2 years as maybe a virtual CIO, vCIO for companies? You realized, what are you going to do at that point?
Well, and the job that I exited to put me in an IT director CIO role for a mid-sized firm, law firm. And from there, I was able to take the feelings I was having where this wasn't right for me. The work product was fine. The environment in which I worked was not. And it was not about the firm. It was about me. It wasn't right for me. But I liked the experience I was gaining doing that full time. And I figured that this particular service offered to maybe smaller organizations who might not be able to have that person on staff I saw a niche there where I think those CIO service could be fractionalized. And so I started crafting and bringing that to market.
So you did this about how long ago?
That was October of last year.
October last year, and the organization is Will Tech Group. Is that
Will
correct?
Technology Group. Yes,
Will
that's correct.
Technology Group. So what's it like working with? And we all know Ryan Will, and
Right.
I was just texting Ryan earlier,
Right.
and he's going to be definitely coming on the program. But talk about this experience over the past year and a half.
Yeah, the experience has been very challenging, and challenging in a good way, not challenging in a bad way. We were two like-minded individuals. Ryan had run his own business for up to 19 years now. I had done the same with partners. And we found ourselves very like-minded, enjoying each other's work product. There was minor overlap. He solved a different technology case than I was always solving, but there was overlaps, and we saw that our clients could consume all of these services and products, not just one or the other. So we made a really good match.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, Dave, you're very self-aware. That's why I love being with you, not just here today, but all the time. And there's no hold barred with you. So for entrepreneurs out there that are looking to exit their business or are in the process of it or planning to do it at some point, give me 1 to 2 of the biggest mistakes that if you could go back and change, you would do.
Wow. I think early on, 2000 and maybe through 2003, 2004, understanding deferred earnings, understanding that every dollar that comes in doesn't have to be spent or taken. I think we could have been a lot more valuable and had more options if we understood that difference between lifestyle businesses and for-profit, for-sale businesses. That's probably one that I think would have been key for us. I think we could have gone further.
So you're saying before you go to market, if you understand your books and you know you're going to go to market, don't just make it a knee-jerk reaction. Actually start to plan and structure your business about making it a business to make it the most valuable and profitable going into market.
Retained earnings and EBITDA is important to people who want to buy you.
Absolutely.
And at the time, all of us partners, relatively young families, money was key to us. The finances that the business threw off was key to us. And the buyers have a different take there.
Fair, very, very true. And private equity is notorious. Their take is dollars and cents, which is, it is what it is, and that's why they paid the big dollars, but they care very much that the profits are continuing to come in and grow in the correct direction.
Correct.
So, Dave, give me one more thing before we wrap up here is, for viewers out there and for someone who's successfully done this and you're back into the marketplace of entrepreneurship again, what was one of the best decisions you made? Was it the timing of selling? I know everybody can look back and say, I could have got more, I should have done things different, and I appreciate your openness about that, but give me one of the best things that you've done through this process.
I think it was forming the relationships. Some of my partners and I are still connected. And focusing on the relationships and not necessarily the business. I think we were all passionate about our business, and we followed passion, which was good. We were good at what we did, and the clients supported us. And there was a lot of foundational relationship building that we did, and that carries through to this day. And I learned that as a 22-year-old young consultant, and it's just amazing. It rings true. So relationships. That was very important to me.
Kind of like real estate, location.
Exactly.
Business, relationships. And that's why our relationship is wonderful, and I thank you so much for coming on the show. Yeah. How would people get in touch with you at Will Technology Group if they wanted to? Not just for services that you offer, but also maybe for mentorship and just really, getting as much information out of that head of yours that has all this knowledge.
Yeah. Directly, David at willtechgroup.com. We are on the web as willtechgroup.com. We are a partner of Bridgepoint Technologies, and if you go to bridgepointtechnologies.com, you will see more about our total portfolio, and as well as get to our page, willtechgroup.com.
David, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You are very welcome.
What
Thanks
a
for having
treat
us.
to have you here. My goodness. I'll get Ryan on the show soon enough. But guys, thank you so much for watching another episode and joining today. I hope the show was insightful for you, as I know it was for me. We hope to see you again next week for another episode of The Roadmap.
Thanks for watching The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.